And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back into the Dragon's Den. My name is Digital Dragon. I am a 3D printing variety streamer here on Twitch and YouTube. Hope everyone's doing well today. So in the last couple of streams, we've been working on the axles for the Unimog. And I went ahead and kind of did a little bit of research trying to figure out what my problem was on the first axle. And I was still kind of, scratching my head a little bit. As I was building the third and final axle, I realized what the problem was. And the big problem was this section right here. So the front axle, which is what I've got in my hand right here, only has an arrow on it. There's no letters or anything on that steering buckle. Well, the third axle, has an arrow and an X. So I had these steering parts for the portal axle on the front axle versus the third and final rear axle. So that was my big problem. That was all my mistake. I used the wrong parts when I built the first axle, which was why as soon as I put the actual steering linkage on, it was not lining up. Hey, Eagle the Dragon, how are you doing today, my friend? Hope you're doing well. Your sister's doing well. She is home. We left a little bit, about 6:30, 6:45. Home. So we're working on a few things here at the store prior to streaming. So long story short, let me jump over here on the bench side. Hey, Pete, how's it going? How's it going, my friend? So we now have 1, 2, 3 assembled axles. I did go ahead and assemble the third axle Sunday after stream. And as I was going through and working on this, I realized what my problem was and why the front axle was looking really, really weird. So now that I have this screen over here, I will try and show it a little bit more. So on this one, you see how we just have an arrow there and nothing on here? Yet this one, we have an arrow and an X. So I had these portal axles with this particular, what do we call this? Steering knuckle geometry right here on the wrong axle. So I wound up, what I was able to do was unscrew the top and the bottom, pop this whole thing off on both sides, move them to the other axle, and vice versa. So we've got the third axle done, which has this very, very beefy sway bar and the 6x6 linkage on the back here. So we've got our 3 axles built out and completed. What's coming up next in the install instructions is doing all of the suspension linkages that are going to the axle. And I think what I'm going to do is start building all that stuff out. And when we hit the stage where it says now put it on the actual frame, we'll hold off. I want to get all 3 of these built. Then we'll bring the frame over here and attach all 3 to the frame at the same time. That's probably going to be over on Thursday, maybe even on Saturday, depending on how well things go and how far we get. How's it going, Matt Owl? Hope you're doing well. So once again, the third axle is back here. We'll have the middle axle or the front of the axles in the rear. And then our very front axle right there. Kind of front to back in the lineup here. Now, let's see if we can pop over here. All right, so this is kind of where we're at. We just finished with the second rear axle for the 6x6. That's all done. And we're going to start prepping things for all of the, I believe these are suspension linkages, which should primarily be most of these parts right here. All right, we're going to be looking for specific ones, and they all have some type of writing on them, like this 6x6. So we're just going to try and set them out so that we can see the writing on them. No writing, 6x6. RIB, RIB, R1T, FT, FT, I think that's the ones we're going to be looking at to start with. None, so that will line up with that one. RIT, and an FD. All right, I think we've got all of the parts laid out here. Hey, Free Heathen, how is it going there, big guy? Hope you're doing well. So we're just going to look at these. We've got the part that says FT on it with the little hockey stick to the left. And for all of these joints, we're going to be using our TPU steering knuckles, or not steering knuckles, but these would be ball joints. There we go. And we're going to apply a little bit of grease in here on all of these as we go to install them. Doesn't need to be a lot. I'm using my multi-purpose screwdriver pry bar bushings. They're ball joints, but that's okay. It doesn't take a lot. We're just going to put a little bit in there. We'll take our rubber ball joints, press them in. You can do this by hand, or if you need to, we also have a pair of our flat jaw pliers here that also are pretty good at applying an even top to bottom force to push these in. Once we get them in, we can just move them around a bit, and that's going to help distribute a little bit of that grease around there. So it basically says do one and then go through and install that for all the other links. So once again, we're just going to grab a little bit of grease, get some grease up in here. And the grease is going to basically help out in the long term with keeping these from wearing down too much or getting really loose. So I started printing parts for the second cab, and I'm printing those out of a matte PET G, which is looking really, really nice. I think that's going to come out looking really, really good. And I'm going to build the cab and then kind of make the decision once I get the cab built, whether I like, which color I like more for the plain cab and which I'd like to do a matching camper shell for. So how are you doing, Free Heathen, Mad Owl, Pete? How are things going with you all this week? I think I saw Pete was having some more issues with the machine that loves to drive him nuts, called the Prusa XL. And these spherical ball joints, you do get a decent amount of play in them. So that's going to come in handy as we build things out to get everything in alignment. Hey, Spidey, how's it going, Brendo? Hope you're doing well. I'm over here playing with the grease again. Getting everything lubed up for these axles. Doing swell and groovy in a far out way. Dude, are you on some meds? And if so, why aren't you sharing? And I'm not putting like a heavy amount of grease on these. I'm just putting some, you know, a little bit of grease in here as I put the ball joints in. And be making a mess everywhere, but that's okay. So Heathen, how's it going, my friend? How's it going? How are your machines running these days? I know you were having some issues with some of your machines as well. You know, I'm fighting with a LDO Centauri Carbon, not one of mine, it's a customer machine that came in with a, well, they both came in with canvas setup, and neither one were working after they installed canvas. I have one that's working reliably, the other one, not so much. So I'm going to wind up probably doing what RJ Repo Man did yesterday and take apart the actual canvas unit to see if there's anything hanging up in one of the actual feeder lanes. And then for those of you that are interested, I have placed my order for the Creator 5 and Creator 5 Pro machines. We'll have those coming in here soon-ish. And by soonish, I mean a couple of weeks. All right, now let's see where we're at. Oh, and wow, I should be like looking at the other chat window as well. Hey, Timor, how's it going? Free Heathen over on YouTube side as well. It's been a day. Hey, Jonathan, how's it going? Stephen Poole, welcome in. Hope everyone's doing well. You are dying, you haven't repaired them. One, I have the parts, the other, I don't know what the issue is. You upgrade your H2S to a H2C, 5 hours, love it, 7 colors, no poop. Nice, Stephen Poole. I don't know if I would upgrade an H2S or an H2D to an H2C. I think if I was going to get one of the bamboos, even if I had an H2S or an H2D and I decided to get an H2C, I would just get the H2C as the extra one. Trade me a P2S for what, a Creator 5? Wow. I have no idea why that camera just did that. The freaky. No, with me. Here we go. Stop. Why are you? Didn't say track me. Where are you going? Where are you going? Cameras, I tell you. Yeah, not sure about that trade there. your poor upgrade was free from thanks contest on Mars. There you go. There you go. Yeah, camera gone wild. It was almost like RJ Repo Man's camera the other day. Was it last night when it decided to just go all kinds of crazy? Okay, so the two links that are marked 6x6 and the two links that are unmarked appear to be for the 6x6 third axle. So I'll have to remember that. What we're going to start with is the axle that says FT, and we're going to want this one that has the long side and the bend on the right. That's the one we're going to start with. And we're going to be using one of these knuckles. Of course, why would they give me... One, two, three, all right. It's going to be this piece here based on looking at the manual. We're going to install using a M2 by 12. We're going to come from the back side of the ball joint and into our printed part. And it's going to go into this linkage up at the top, in the top side here. And because these ball joints are TPU, be careful. You want to get them snug, but you don't want to over tighten them where you compress that ball joint down and reduce the movement. Righty? There's first part. Next part. Repeat the same steps for the other side. Okay, so we'll have that would be that way. This one's going to come in here like this on the other steering knuckle that looks like that. Yes. Hey, DJ Midnight Wolf, how's it going? Welcome in. $26C and $68A. Not sure what that's in reference to, but all right. There's those two linkages. And now it looks like we're going to join those in holy matrimony with M2 by 20s. Flip them over in this direction. We're going to come in from this side. Much one, I bet we're going to go in from the other side as well. Screw down. Now, all right, there we go. So those two pieces are joined together. And we're going to make sure to follow the sequence. Step 1, an M2 by 20. It's going to be through the top left, and we're going into yes, we're going to go into this one. So this is the front axle, and we need to make sure that we are following the sequence. And we install this, and I'm going to make my life a little bit easier and drill these out. I'm not going to really crank on that just yet. Hey, Mod Light, how's it going? Liz, how you doing? Making supper, but wanted to say hi? Well, hello. You'll have to do another inventory and go see me about some goods. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, so once again, make sure you follow the sequence. We did the top left. Now it wants us to do the top right. And notice this is an M2 by 25 screw, not a 20 screw. So this one's longer than the previous one. So M20, M25. M25, this one is going in the middle. So down here at the middle with the M25. Come in here and just do final snug on them. Double check the position and the orientation of the FT link. So looking at it from one side, we'll see FT. Means on the other side, we should also see FT. So we're reading it left to right like we would normally. Now we're going to use the FB links, and we're looking for where the FB is, and the FB should be there, and that's the part that's going to go on the axle side itself. And where is this going? We're flipping this over like so, and the FB is going to go right here in this joint with an M2 by 12. By the way, Liz, what's for supper? I'm going to try and push that screw through a little bit. Make my life easier to get lined up and get that screw started. Okay. Let me guess, the other FB is going to go over on the other side, also using an M2 by 12. And once again, you want the linkage side that has the lettering, FB lettering, to be nearest the axle. All right. There are those. Now we're going to use one of these parts. One that actually says FL on it. So FL. And we're going to come from outside of this. We're going to go into this top knuckle. Not want to stay. Here we go. In the other linkage, we're going to use an M2 by 16. We're going to be coming up from the bottom. And into the bottom of this piece. Okay. Now I'm pretty sure we're going to do it on the opposite side as well. So we come in 12 and a 16, right? 12, and we come from the outside in. See if I can't get this started by hand a little bit easier. And like I said, you want to just snug it up. You do not want to compress that TPU ball joint. Then we're going to take an M2 by 16. We're going to come in from underneath here. Hey, Tinkering Techie. Yeah, some of this I did off stream. So I was trying to figure out what I did with the front axle, and what I did, and I didn't realize it until I was building the rear axle, was, give me a second, I'll show you. So the front axle here, the markings on this is just an arrow, okay? The markings on the rear axle are an arrow and an X. So I had these portal axles using this steering knuckle geometry on the front. So the straight edge is over here. On the fronts, the straight edge is on this side, which brings it in a lot. So it turns out when you install the right portal axle on the right axle itself, it actually all lines up really, really well. Okay, and we're making sure that we have FL and FR, so left, right. And as we look at it from, I would assume bottom down, FB, FB. So that's good. Now we're going to do some reinforcing screws on our axles, our drive shafts. So we have R, F, one we're going to start with. We have 6x6. So I knew that these were going to be drive shafts. These are printed in PET CF. So these are in PET CF. We're going to put M2x6 screws in here to reinforce this knuckle here. That's actually going to be easier putting it in with this. Maybe. Maybe not. All right, so I think these holes are a little bit right, this one is just not liking to not want to get started. All right. Tight fit. Tight, tight fit. And we're going to do an M2 by 12 on the other side. This is going to fit into one of our housings over here, because this one will go all the way through. Screws get hot, especially when you're going through PET CF. They get hot. Just a heads up and a warning. Now, we've done that for F. We also need to do that for R, and then we'll do it again for the 6x6. And what I want to do is see if I can't put the next size smaller drill bit in here. And nope, that won't work. So what I'm trying to do is just open these holes up ever so slightly to get it started. Because once it bites in, the screw will pull itself through. It's just trying to get it to start initially. Those two. M2 by 6, M2 by 12 goes down here at the end. Yeah, putting a little bit of grease on the end of that will help some. Seem to. Grease on this. Ah. Darn it, Luke, what is going on with you? So I see that part of my problem is I did not drill that straight to begin with. Okay, so first you don't succeed, try again. We went from the opposite side. That should be perfectly fine. It's not going to matter. So we have those. Is there a short shaft somewhere? Or wait. The axle is marked with 6x6 and the shorter one must be assembled for the 6x6 configuration. So I don't know if I just drove things into rear and we're not going to be using rear. I don't know. We'll go ahead and prep this one as well, just in case. And then whichever one we don't wind up using, we'll just recover screws from. So for the folks that are in the area, please remember that this coming Sunday will be the first Sunday of the month. It'll be August 2nd. So come on out and hang out here at the shop for the monthly maker meetup. Love having everybody down here. You can come down and check out the Unimog live and in person. You may also see another couple of cool builds that are here since the last time. All right, so we have all 4 of those done. I think we're not going to use one of them. And this is where it starts telling us to mount drive shafts in. The drive shafts are going to go in here. And these are not going to get these will not be greased because these ends are going to be fixed. I'm kind of thinking whether I want to bring the frame over and mount these now or not. One to the front, one to the rear, one for the 6x6. And what I'm trying to think about is once I start installing it, it becomes harder to move this whole thing around at the moment, because the only thing holding these in are going to be the 3 screws on either side for the linkages and the drive shaft itself. Nothing else will be holding this into that frame until we start doing the upper mounts and the shock towers. Sounds good. Everybody say hey to Evil Diesel. So we're going to hold off on actually installing the axles just yet. So we've got our drive shafts. We've got our front axle. Now we're going to come over here and start building the extra differential gearbox here for the 6x6. This is the part that has O marked on it. Let's see, we're going to put a couple of bearings on that, and then we're going to drive screws through this piece and into this. So we want to drill these holes out. Any topics being discussed at the meetup on Sunday? We do not have a topic identified at this time. Is there a topic that you would like to have discussed at the Maker meetup? I mean, we could try and get Diesel to come out and talk about, having fully sealed and manifold parts when you do your 3D modeling and break parts out for STLs. We can talk about the Unimog build, of course. See, what else do we have going on here? We do have the LDO with the canvas. That's going to be here through the weekend, so we can talk about that. In fact, I'm going to have to start working on one of the canvas units, trying to see if it was something that similar to what RJ Repo Man was experiencing on his unit. So what we're doing here is we're drilling the holes out for the parts that the screws are going to go through, and then we're pre-tapping the parts that we're going to be screwing into, because we found that if we don't, sometimes the holes themselves are just too tight, and we start stripping the head of the screw before we get it all the way down in there. And especially on like the M3 by 20, 25, and 30 screws, that you'll want to add a little bit of the grease to the end of the screw to try and reduce the overall friction and prevent melting the part itself as you're installing the screws. We did that. I know I'm going to be putting screws into these. Go ahead and get these tapped as well. You like the idea of talking about the LDO canvas system? All right, we can do that. Yeah, it's pretty interesting on the LDOs, the amount of parts that get replaced when you install canvas, and the fact that they made canvas available for like $50. You're literally, you're taking out the original filament sensor, you're replacing the extruder, which has a filament sensor in it for identifying the filaments to the tool head. You replace the tool head board. You replace a couple of the connections between the front and the rear board. You you install the canvas itself. You add the reinforcing bars on the side to mount the spool holders. And then you have to take the bottom panel off, take the original cable for the, we'll say the 4-pin, I'm assuming CAN bus connector, and swap it out, or not swap it out, but add in a pigtail, because apparently they changed the wiring to make the, so from a straight, there was nothing wrong with the wiring, it's just the wiring for the cable to make sure that you don't install the 4-pin Molex connector for that cable between the canvas unit and the back of the printer. That really just needs to be a straight through cable. And if it's not, the chances of plugging it in the wrong direction and sending power to the wrong thing dramatically increases. So it's easier just to have you open the bottom panel and add a pigtail. All right. We went ahead and tapped those while we had them. I think we need to drill these 4 out. It's almost like we built a few of these. Oy. All right, so that's done, that's done. At some point I'll have to drill out some of these. We'll figure that out once we get there, but we're gonna have a couple bearings that'll go on this. Right now it doesn't really matter. We'll get the spacing between the 2 bearings down the way. We're gonna add this. We're gonna go through this with M2x30s. one through, get a little grease on there. And we'll get that screwed in a couple of turns. Get a dab of grease on the other threads. And the last set of threads. And we'll start screwing this down. Hey, Steve Builds, how's it going? Yep, Mogs everywhere. Exactly. Everybody's building Mogs these days. No, it just looks so cool. There was no way I could not build one. And the sad part is I don't even have this one built yet. And I'm already planning like additional like changes. What I mean by changes is I'm sitting here going, oh, well, I'm going to want both a standard cab and flatbed and the ability to cut it over to a cab and overland, right? So I'm already starting to print a second cab body. And then looking at some other builds by like Elvis RC and going, wow, that's really cool too. So in trouble. All right, so we've got these two pieces put together. This is kind of where we're at. These screws are long. Don't know why they're that long. Like literally we could probably get away with the 25s instead of the M2 by 30s, but I mean, we'll see. Unless there's some kind of standoff missing. Nope, this goes directly in there. I'm going to pull these out and swap them out for 25s. That's way too long, and we're not going to be able to seat this in there because of that excess length. So I'm going to pull these out and swap them over to 25s. Oh yeah, the big X-Wing is freaking killer as well. So we built the X-Wing fighter by Titan 3D, and when I did it, I may have increased it to 150% size of the files. So it's almost a 3-foot wingspan. I'm not going to tighten these all the way. That way it helps me identify which ones I've swapped out already. Oh yeah, it's crazy huge, Spidey. So, Steve, speaking of Mogs, are you building a Mog yourself or not? I know you were doing a Subaru, but I can't remember if it was all the 3D sets or if you were doing the Casadio Subaru. Yeah, you're doing the Subaru? Yeah, that one's really cool as well. I mean, just the sheer amount of files and detail in these is amazing. Okay, so now doing that, we'll be able to actually mount this without any problems, other than I am going to go through and tap these a little bit. Once again, all of my gear plates were printed in Overture Easy Nylon, not carbon fiber, just straight nylon. All right, take it easy, Diesel. The drive shafts, the frame, and all of the like suspension shock mount areas and stuff were printed in PET CF. It was a combination of Soraya Tech and Kitty Tech, PET CF. Both of which print beautifully, by the way, on the Kitty Q2. And how's it going, Beardy? Hope you're doing well. Yeah, this is a pretty fun build, and I will have to admit it is very, very hard not to want to come in and just build on this every day. Especially when you have meetings in the day job. So how many places are you streaming to? Twitch, YouTube? Yes, I am streaming to both Twitch and YouTube, Steve. 3D sets 4x4 van was cool to build. Yeah. Yeah, and the 3D sets you can build as full RC or as like static. And I know that the Truggy, like the little sand dune buggy, came with the Mark IV from Prusa. And that was my first foray into 3D sets. I think I got all 4 of those. Yeah, so my primary stream setup on OBS is Twitch. And then I've also set up to dual stream over to YouTube as well. That's kind of what you're seeing there, Steve. Let me go ahead and throw 2 mil holes through here. Make life easier. So we're not cutting threads the whole time. All right. M2 by 16. And it kind of seems like you've been having some fun builds lately, Steve. I've watched the, I was watching the, words on stream sometimes. I was watching the index build, and it just seemed like there was little gotchas left and right on that. It's always fun when builds do not go as planned. No, I do not have a third stream set up. It's just Twitch and YouTube. I don't do Kick. I'm not streaming on Discord or anything like that to my knowledge. It is just here and Twitch. I'm sorry, Twitch and YouTube. No live stream to TikTok, no live stream to Facebook or any of that good stuff. All right, M2x16s in there, so that part's good. Now we're going to come through on the back side here with our other this drive shaft linkage. This is going to be M2x20s. So as far as locations that I stream from, I am streaming from my store right now. Rather than the house. I haven't streamed from the house since the store opened. These worry me some because when these are installed properly, stick out through the bottom, right where it can foul up against the bearings, depending on the gap in those bearings. Hey, Timur, thank you for the subscribe for 34 months. I appreciate that. Am I going to hang it from the ceiling? Right now, it is sitting on top of the TD Max 4 printer boxes that we still have for sale, simply because it's massive. Actually, I'm not sure. I may have to actually spike it into the ceiling, not the drop ceiling. Okay, and this is going to fit down in our middle axle here. So drive shaft that way, drive shaft this way. Sure that these bearings sit down in there. Yeah, and so once again, it called for M2x16 screws, and you see how these screws are sitting proud right here? They foul on the case. So I'm gonna have to pull these out and drop down to 12s so that they're not coming through the back of that housing. Because one, they're gonna catch on the actual bearings, but two, they're actually gonna they'll actually foul, well, crud. 12s don't go all the way through. 16s go too far. Do I have 14s? Maybe 2.5. 12, 16. I do not have 14s. And like I said, those 16s, I'll show you what I mean here. Let me get this one back in there. So when I sit this down in here and get the bearings sitting in their gaps right, one, I can't even seem to get the bearings pushed all the way down in there. And then two, you can see how the screws over here are going to be hitting the casing. And I really don't have a really good way of showing that. We may not be able to install this either because oh wait, I'm sorry, that's not 16. Those are 20s, aren't they? What did I put in there? My bad. 16s will work. 20s are too long. That makes sense. So 16s will work. It'll go through. It won't sit proud. But the 20s are a no-go. '18s would probably be better, but we don't have '18s in any part of the kit either. Mostly just the spool holders. Well, I know the spool holders were fiddly, but wasn't there a big issue with the like the tool mounts themselves breaking? Or at least the thread stripping out of them? Okay, this should fit nicely now. There we go. That's a lot better. All right, now install 6x6 only 2 M2 by 12. M2 by 12 where? All right, let me get everybody's eyes here. It shows this dropping down in this part. 2 M2 by 12. I don't know about you, but I'm not seeing anything there where it would make screws that I don't already have in here. Yeah, so don't know what's up with that. It wants us to install plenty of grease on the plastic part here that's going to be rolling around here. We don't have a lot there, so smear some grease on there with my finger. Been using one of my KB 3D screwdrivers as like a putty knife for grease. And now we're going to install the top cover, M2 by 25. Let me go ahead and make sure that these holes are full pass-throughs now. And I'm going to pop this back off just so I can go ahead and start tap on these three tools. Or three tools, these three holes, because they do look like they're pretty tight and we're doing an M3 by 25, so we want to make sure that we have at least some threads starting. To give us a fighting chance. All right. And give us a starting chance there. M2 by 25. Drop that back down there. M2 25 is one closest to me over here. Gonna get that started. And M2 by 20s on the other side. See? You? Look at that. Everything's turning nice and smoothly there. All right, now not those two pieces. This piece will have an arrow on it. And based on what we're looking at, we're going to bring the screw in from this side in 2x8. Just a reinforcing screw, so and then what's next? Heat for the other side. Don't appear to have that other side over here. So give me a second and let me go grab another bag of parts and see if I can't find that. Tower mounts, top rack. All right. I mean, there's only a few more bags of parts that we could be looking through to find said piece. So these are more frame mounting pieces, shock tower mounts, stuff like that. So this is going to be in the PET CF. Everything in this bag at least. Would be the locking diffs. Air tanks. Flatbed mounts. We might be missing a part here, folks. I do believe we are. We are missing a part. Well, that's not fun. Okay. Well, we'll have to look at that or look for that other piece. And of course, we're going to start getting into this. This will at least be the part that we have. We need the RIT. This, the RIT left. 2x16. I hate when we somehow miss a part, but then again, that is the only part that I have missed so far. So that's actually not a bad ratio on 580 something parts. so we have that one. It's probably going to tell us to do the other. Nope. Install this. Looked around in that orientation. Bigger. And 2 by 20. Make sure to tighten the screw in the correct hole, otherwise you will clamp the top shaft for the 6x6 drivetrain. Well, that's good to know. This one that's over here, otherwise we're going to go down into this drive shaft. Get started. All right, now it's going to probably tell me to do the other side. See, I'm 2 by 16. The shorter screw for this one. Make sure our drive shaft still moves. Now it's going to tell us like the same, and this is where we're going to have the problem because we don't have this other part. And I'm definitely going to have to go and get that set up on the other side. And I remember I did have a failed part, and I'm pretty sure that was obviously the part. And I just never went back and reprinted it. All right, so we're going to have to do this side later. Now it wants us to install the R1B on the opposite side of this. And where are these going? On the side. So R1B be going towards the inside. Yes. Okay, M2 by 12. Go ahead and get these going. We'll basically keep going, and we'll add that linkage piece all off stream because I'll go ahead and get it. I'll get that printed off stream. All right, one here, the other one will go on this side. 12. All right, there we go. Double check the correct orientation of the bottom links. RIB, RIB. Looks to be about right. The RI and RI. And you keep changing the directions up on me. Okay, we'll flip it back this direction. And we're going to be looking for RL, so rear left. Here's our RL. And we're coming, flip this around so I'm in the same direction as what it's showing me. Coming from the outside in with an M2 by 12. Oh, I think we made some pretty good progress tonight on getting these linkages and everything done up. Just have to reprint that one part. Right. M2 by 12 from the bottom. So through the bottom linkage here. Into the bottom here. All right. And since we're not going to be able to install the top one over there, we'll just do the bottom one. M2 by 12. We'll do the top linkage once we can get that installed. All right, so there's kind of our linkage there. Now it says it wants us to install it. We're not going to install it just yet because, well, I'm going to drag all this over here at the same time. So for now, we're good. Once again, we'll have to fit this linkage in here once we get there. And folks, it is coming up on 10 o'clock. See how much further we're going to go. Actual install for the 6x6. We can go ahead and work on this piece here. We want the side that has, not the flat side, but the side that has all the countersunk spots. I'm going to put some M2x6 reinforcing screws in here. Maybe. I love how we're adding reinforcing screws to all of these parts. This gets mounted on the top of this last axle. That M2x12. All right, it's going in nicely. 14-minute timer, time for you to get, yeah, I'm going to try and I need to clear a print from the printer, make sure that it printed fine for a customer that's picking it up in the morning. And I will start that print that I was missing. And then, yeah, I will be out of here. So those M3x12s, M2x12s, bottom lengths of the axles are symmetrical and equivalent for both sides. And that's going to be these ones here. And we're going to come in the side that has there's a side with a raised edge, and then a flat side. We're going to come in this side. M2x12. Going in here. Really, you're going to have me do one side, then the other, instead of having me do both while I'm down here? All right, so those two. Go ahead and flip it over. And we want the 6x6. Going to be facing us, so that's going to go in this way. We're using M2 by 16. Check the 6x6. Make sure that you can read it as you're facing it. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side, so it's a good thing we did that one already. We're going to do this one, so the 6x6, we can read it. I'm going to go right here, M2 by 16. Which part is that? Probably going to be in this bag because it's going to look like some type of a mounting plate. No. That would be it. Does it have a sister for the other side? It does. All righty. Arrow facing me. On this little depression here, we're going to put two M2 by 20s. And these are PET CF parts, so these are probably going to be a little tight. Put just a dab of PTFE on them. All right, there's a round edge and a flat edge. It wants the flat edge in alignment here. Bottom. Do that to me. going to strip these. Back out, go back in. Wait. I may have already stripped the head of one of these. So that's going to be a good time to say our farewells, folks. Because I'm going to have to figure out how to get this one out now. Sometimes, I tell you. All right, one screw head stripped. I will work on this off stream. Folks, I think it's a good time to say good night. When you start stripping screw heads, it's probably a good time. Everybody, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. This build's been pretty cool. I will print that one piece tonight or tomorrow, and I will probably install this adjoining leg over here off stream just so that that part's caught up. And I think we'll be ready to bring over the actual frame and start mounting stuff on the next stream. So everybody, thank you for being here this evening. And for all the support you give me both here and here at the store. You all are awesome like that. Have fun, take care, and I will see you all next time. Bye now.